Hi, Peter. It's Kurt. I
Okay.
think we're live. I got a note from Andre.
All right, I'm good to go. Thanks very much. Let's get going on this one. So, welcome everybody to the Lazy Project Manager's Guide to Artificial Intelligence, where I want to talk about the potential of AI and the power of AI when it comes to your world and my world as well. So, one of the things I'm very grateful for Sembly AI to allow me to do this presentation is I'm always looking for advantages in the world of project management, which is where I come from. So let me just introduce myself and I'll explain why that is. So you may have heard of me. I am the author of a #1 best-selling project management book, The Lazy Project Manager. It's been out for quite a few years now and still seems to be an incredibly popular book. So we're going to explore a little bit around the lazy project manager, the principles, the concept of productive laziness, which I've been talking about for many years. I've also written many other books, and I've also delivered a lot of lectures around the world. And my latest work is AI and the Project Manager: How the Rise of Artificial Intelligence Will Change Your World. And I'm very passionate about talking about this. I'm very passionate about having the opportunity to speak to people about this because I think it's incredibly exciting. And whenever I come across organizations like Sembly AI, where artificial intelligence is being used in a practical way today, that is fantastic. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. But it's truly exciting when it hits my world. My world is projects. My world is project management. My world is, as you can see, apart from being a keynote speaker, author, influencer, I'm also the VP of a global PMO for a major organization in the world of HCM. And as such, finding technology that fits my project world, I mean, I'm kind of very biased, I must admit, is amazing. And Sembly AI connected with me, and I can just see the stuff that they do really does fit the world of project management, the world of PMOs, and all of that. So I was delighted to have this opportunity to speak to you today. But let's get productively lazy, and there is the Lazy Project Manager. That is the book that has been an Amazon #1 bestseller, and that was a very proud moment for me. That a small book I wrote a few years ago reached that kind of level. My world of project management became a little bit visible, if you like, in the world, a little bit more. And that's something I'm very passionate about. So productively lazy, I mean, what do I mean by productively lazy? It means, in very simple terms, it is about working smarter, not harder. It's finding the most effective way to become successful in what you do. And project management is it's a very interesting, but also a very challenging job. And we see on a regular basis the outcomes from some pretty amazing projects over time throughout the world. And the outcomes are fantastic, but the teams that deliver these amazing outcomes are often a little less visible to the world. And I try and celebrate any opportunity I can. The amazing work that my peers around the world do. And so I've been talking about getting productively lazy for some time. So this is where it all started. I'm going to give you a very short introduction to the Lazy Project Manager, and then we're going to go and look at AI and why I think these two things work so superbly together. So it all kicked off quite a few years ago. I was running a PMO, and a number of people, I had a number of project managers as part of that PMO, around about 100. And I was looking at the way they were behaving, and it was just interesting to me because about half of them were behaving or they were working what you might call typical working weeks. Yeah. So by typical, I mean, on average, they were working, 40 hours a week. Now we know projects aren't quite like that. They go up, they go down, they're not flat. That's what makes them exciting. Yeah. It's not 9 to 5. But on average, they were working typical weeks and they were being reasonably successful. There's always room for improvement. There's always an advantage in moving forward and trying to raise that success level. But what was also interesting was the other half of that group, because the other half of that group were being just as successful as the first group. But they were working, in my mind, crazy hours, 50-hour weeks, 60-hour weeks, 70-hour weeks and more. And yet there would be no more successful than the first group. And I started doing some analytics around that. I started looking at it, started investigating it, trying to uncover some of the differences between the two groups in the way they acted, where they behaved, the way they worked with their teams, all of that. And then I found this wonderful quote. It's by Robert Heinlein, the science fiction writer. And to bring the quote up to date, progress isn't made by early risers, it's made by lazy people trying to find easier ways to do something. And I thought, yes, that's it. That's it for me. It is that combination between, if you like, laziness and effectivity and efficiency that just fits my world. It fits everybody's world, but it particularly struck me in the world of project management. And so that gave birth to the Lazy Project Manager. Insult your profession and get on if you like. Not everybody loved the title, but it has proved to be really popular. Now, the book talks about the science of laziness, and this is not news to you, I'm sure. You know, the whole Pareto principle, it was suggested by Joseph Duran. It was named after the Italian economist Vilfredo Pareto. It's this whole concept of the 80-20. Vilfredo identified that 80% of property in Italy, way back in time, was owned by 20% of the Italian population. And Joseph Duran took that and he turned it, and we probably quote the 80-20 rule. I think I quote it once a week, something like that. And it kind of works. Most of the companies I have worked for in the past, 80% of revenue comes from 20% of their client base. I think major organizations, that's a common rule. The massive flow comes from the smaller element, if you like. In our personal life, for example, we wear 20% of the clothes that we own 80% of the time, and that probably was a little bit different during the whole wonderful lockdown period we had when we were wearing just a few of our clothes occasionally. But this principle works. And so I argued that from a lazy project manager's point of view, it's not about not doing everything on our to-do list, but our to-do lists are crazy. You're on this webinar right now. Your to-do list is growing as you attend and listen to what I'm saying, because people are giving you things to do, asking you to do things. Your manager might be telling you to do something. There is demand on you all the time. And so this whole concept around the kind of, the science of laziness is understanding what's in that 20% that's going to deliver the 80% of personal return on investment. What's the most important thing you have to do? What's the highest priority, greatest impact, most significant piece of work that you should be working on right now? And once you've done that, what's the second one? It's almost like, in the good old days of software or coding, etc. It's a bubble sort, constantly reevaluating, not just going with the oldest first, not just doing the first thing that's on your to-do list, but instead thinking about what is the most important thing I should be working on right now, and avoiding the distractions. And this is something we're going to come back to. It is, what is it you can not do to allow you to focus on the things that you should be doing? Yeah. So this is the science of laziness. Now, what came next was the intelligence of laziness. Another wonderful character from history, Helmuth Karl Bernhard Graf von Moltke. Moltke was the field marshal of the Prussian army at the end of the 19th century. Moltke and his son after him, they reshaped the Prussian military force into one of the most efficient forces at the time. A lot of what they actually did is still relevant in the world of military structure and discipline. But one of the things I loved that Moltke did was he came up with this. He said, broadly speaking, you can categorize people into the smart, not smart, lazy, diligent, hardworking, lazy, smart, not smart. He was a bit ruder than that, to be honest, and I've kind of changed the words to be a little bit more politically correct. But what was fascinating in this, I think, is that what Moltke was saying, that, the people who work hard and are smart are not your leaders. What he said was that, they are important people. So we're looking at the bottom right-hand quadrant there. Deploying to his terms star function. They will make sure all detail is thoughtfully addressed, but they're not your leaders. Your leaders are the people that work in the top right hand, not the bottom right hand, the top right hand quadrant. The people who combine laziness and intelligence promote to leaders. They will know about how to be successful through the most efficient deployment of resources. And that was very much the heart of this kind of concept of productive laziness. It's finding the most efficient way to do something in order to be increasingly successful. not just inventing something all the time, not just making it up, not just throwing power, mountains of effort at something. Sometimes that's relevant, but most of the time it isn't. Is what is the most effective way to do that? And that's really where the intelligence and laziness came forward. And then I went on in the book, because it was a very different book. Trust me, it's a project management had never seen anything like this beforehand. I said the focus of laziness. We've had the science of laziness. We had the intelligence of laziness. The focus of laziness is, and this is in kind of Monty Python. I'm a Monty Python fan. You can still go and find their YouTube videos, etc., if you want to. But there was this wonderful sketch in Monty Python where this character, Miss Annie Alcott, which is John Cleese, had this theory about brontosauruses, that they're thin at one end, much thicker in the middle, thin again at the far end, and that always stuck in my mind, that particular sketch. But I thought, so many times people think of projects like that, thin at the start, thick in the middle, and thin again at the far end. And I argued against that. I said, for a lazy project manager, someone who's leading a team of people, it's different. It's thick at the start, it's thick at the end, and it's thin in the middle. And it's thin in the middle because it's all at that point. It's all about your project team. It's about your team members. It's about the people who are doing the key work that contributes to the outcome of the project. And so the book is just an argument, if you like, or a presentation around why that is the case and how you break a project down into the various stages to present this kind of approach of doing things in the most efficient and effective way. And we'll touch on to one of those a bit later on around communication, because that is a massive part of any project manager's world. So that's your introduction, your very rapid introduction into the lazy project manager. And of course there's an awful lot more to it, but I loved the thought when I started looking and when I started hearing about AI, artificial intelligence. Two things struck me. The first thing that struck me was nobody seemed to be talking about it in my world at that point. This is just probably 2 years ago I started to raise this as a topic, and at that point I weren't finding conversations. I was looking at the various project management conferences and congresses and chapter meetings, etc., and I just wasn't hearing about AI in any way. And I thought, well, that's wrong, because if you start reading about it and what it's potentially going to do, what it is doing right now, then it's something that should not be ignored. It should be something that is being discussed and constantly being discussed. So again, I'm always delighted to talk about it. So how does AI fit into this approach? Well, the big change is coming. Let's start with that. Gartner, for example, Gartner is saying that 2.3 million jobs, creating $2.9 trillion of value, will be as a result of AI in the next few years. They're saying that this will generate more jobs than the jobs will be lost, because we always have to accept that, don't we? When technology comes, it's not all a total plus. There will be some negatives, but Gartner's view on it is the fact that it will raise 2.3 million jobs. Yes, there will be 1.8 million that will be lost or changed as a result of that, but still a significant uplift. Google, I love that Google CEO went as far as to say that AI is one of the most important things humanity is working on. One of the most important things that we're working on right now. That's just amazing. And Forbes talked about the fact that AI, with its unique ability to monitor patterns and so forth, will allow for better decisions to be made, faster decisions to be made, more focus on the important things, less focus on other things, because AI will just deal with that. So changes are coming. And I think that's the kind of first point I want to make, is the fact this is why I think it's so important for everybody to be talking about this, and certainly in the world of project management, Now, this is the Gartner report I was quoting from earlier on. It's definitely something worth reading. But how about this for a headline? By 2030, okay, it's 2022 already, and we're halfway through that year. By 2030, 80% of the work of today's project management discipline will be eliminated as AI takes on functions such as data collection, tracking, and reporting. That just made me stop. Now, whether that is absolutely accurate or not, but it shows a scale. That's the important thing. 80% of the work that I do as a project manager, that my project managers do, my PMO does, all of that, 80% of that work will be eliminated because AI will do it and do it better. Do it tirelessly, do it non-emotionally, do it 24/7, constantly be able to do that and deliver the results that are required. Now, what does that mean? What does that actually mean to the world of project management? I want to engage with you on this one, if I may, and explore this in some detail. So I'm using Menti, and I'd love you to be able to use Menti with me. It's very simple. You just go to menteecom. You can see it on the screen there. Go to menteecom. Use the code 68646905. Just key that in and okay, I've really lost. I don't know if you lost me there at the moment, but my question, my ask is that you go to menti.com and use the code 68646905. I'd love to see some names coming up. I hope this is working okay. I'm just going to go and check the chat. That's fine. Okay, great. Tim's in. Candy's in. Great. Keep them coming in. I want to see lots of names up here because I am going to be using this to get some real insights from you. This is just warm up, all right? It's just getting to get you used to this whole process. I've enjoyed using Menti over the last couple of years. It's a fun, colourful, interactive tool, instant polling, that kind of thing. I know lots of tools have it, but again, it's another example of where technology is really, really brilliant, I think. So keep the names coming in. I'd like to see quite a few before I move on. I'm going to ask you a name, and then we're going to move on to what we think, what your role is, and then I've got some real questions around AI for you. But I'm going to go back to where I was earlier on, while I wait for the names to come in. So if in the world of project management, myself, my project managers, they know what they do on a daily basis. If suddenly 80% of that work disappears, what is actually going to happen? What's the outcome of this? You know, does this mean that they're going to be managing 5 times as many projects? Are they going to be more time on other things? Are we going to be, you know, is the role of project manager going to change? It just begs for so many things. And that's one of the reasons I wrote the book, AI and the Project Manager, and the impact of it will have, because there are just so many questions up there. Now, I have some views, which I'm going to share with you. I have some thoughts. But okay, we've got quite a few names in right now. You can join at any time. So I'm going to move on. So just tell me your role. You know, what is it you actually do right now? What is your role? Are you a project manager, a program manager, a PMO? Are you a consultant? Are you a trainer? Are you a project sponsor? Are you something completely different? Project engineer, IT technical support. Here they come. Thank you. Because again, it's always great on marketing. Yeah, and it's always good to know the mix of your audience as well. So project manager, technical consultant, project manager, trainer, perfect. Director of program director. Cool. Nice mix so far. PM consultant, national retail sales, senior director, global PMO. Great job, I think. Great job heading up a PMO. I love the work that I do. I love trying to bring about the change inside my organization and working with the clients that we have. PM university faculty, fantastic. All right. Okay. We've got a few more. Right, let's get to the serious stuff now, So I'd love to know how you feel about artificial intelligence and project management. If you have an opinion at this point, you know, so how do you feel about this? Are you excited? Are you cautious? Are you neutral? Are you concerned? Are you worried? Are you bored? What's the kind of mix at the moment? It'd be interesting to see. So I've done this a few times with groups, and the pattern is always different, I've found, on the various spectrum. This one is very interesting. It's heavily loaded to the excited. And that's fantastic. Cautious is totally acceptable as well. There's nothing wrong with the kind of cautious approach as well. You just don't have to rush in headlong into embracing something. That's not necessarily always a good thing. So degree of caution is fantastic. So nobody's concerned, nobody's worried, and nobody's bored. That's fantastic. I'm just going to make a note here that we had 19.7. Okay, 19 and 7. Excited and cautious. All right. 2017. Okay, that's kind of got the idea of the mix. So brilliant. So thank you for that. One neutral, fair enough. Excited continues to grow, cautious, but they're all kind of the left hand side there of the graph, which is I haven't seen that totally so far. So you're an interesting audience in your viewpoints. So thank you for sharing. I'm going to move on. Look, AI is just generally it's complicated. It's not a simple beast. It's lovely when you have a term, artificial intelligence, AI, and there's I uncovered as I started writing the book, and I'm going to go into a tiny bit in this session, but there's a lot of sub definitions of AI, and is it narrow or so forth? Is it AI and the components of it? I'm going to talk about bits I think are specifically relevant to us today and what's coming, because I think that's the biggest thing right now. It's about understanding the changes that are going to come towards our profession, understanding the impact that's going to have, understanding how we can prepare ourselves for it, and being able to talk to other people about it, because it's not a single voice like myself, and there are others out there. There are a number of other books written by other people in the world of project management for sure, but the more people talking about this, the better, as far as I can say. So here's a couple of contrasting examples I want to talk about. So on the left-hand side is the UK Patent Office. Now, the UK Patent Office arguably is thought to be the oldest in the world. So when someone invents something or creates something, this is the office they come to put it forward for consideration, validation against what's existing already, and the Patent Office has a massive database and is connected to other patent offices around the world. And subject to a fairly rigorous process, at the end of that, you can be granted a patent that says, yes, you, Peter Taylor, invented this, created this, it is unique, nobody else has done this before, it is yours, you are protected for a period of time, nobody can copy it. That's the principle, yeah? So, what is fascinating that already there have been submissions to the UK Patent Office for inventions created by artificial intelligence. Just think about that. Already, AI, or someone has put forward on behalf of AI, some inventions, two inventions. And there was a thing called the Dabus hearing, because Dabus was the AI machine, DABUS, if you want to look it up and learn more. So what happened was two submissions were made into the Patent Office that said this AI machine, Dabus, had created something. And the Patent Office looked at this and they concluded that no, at this point in time, right now, AI cannot invent something independently of humans. AI is dependent on humans, and therefore they cannot accept that a patent can be aligned or subscribed to or given to an AI machine. Okay, but the second thing the Patent Office said as part of the Dabus hearing was they were going to undertake, and they are doing that right now, undertaking a review of the patent process, accepting that very, very soon they will have to deal with inventions, creations, designs that are produced by artificial intelligence. So we're not quite there yet. We're not quite ready. But you know what? These organizations, and I'm sure it's true of other organizations like that around the world, are already proactively looking at this, saying it's coming and we need to be ready for it. That's the left-hand side. The right-hand side is there's a lovely TED talk by a lady called Janelle Shane. And Janelle Shane's been doing some work about, and she's written about and speaks about AI being pretty weird. And one of the things that I liked about it was that they said was that they ran a whole series of imagery into this AI technology platform, whatever term we're going to use for it, and they showed all these visual images of fish. And the conclusion at this point in time, certainly when she was speaking about this and produced and delivered the TED talk, was that the AI concluded that fish have fingers. Why? Well, I'm sure you can work it out. Half, if not more, pictures of fish are pictures of fishermen holding fish like that, or fish in a fishmongers, or the fish being prepared by chefs, etc. So perhaps there is an obvious link there, but obviously there's a link beyond that says no, that's not actually the case. Fish do not have fingers. So here we have something that's quite an interesting conflict, isn't it? The Patent Office are preparing for AI inventions. AI is still evolving, but evolving really, really fast. Now, I want to introduce you to Robbie. Robbie is my home automated AI-powered vacuum cleaner, duster, whatever terminology you want to. Robbie's sitting down there right now. Robbie's fast asleep. Robbie wakes up about 5 o'clock in the morning. It's on an automatic schedule, and it goes around the house, and it does a very, very good job of just clearing things up. And at the end of that process, it will return to its base station and recharge itself, ready for another go tomorrow morning. Very clever. It's very clever now. It wasn't so clever in the early days. So a couple of examples of where Robbie had to learn, and we had to learn, if you like. So the first one, top left, is when Robbie came back to his base station and tried to eat his own power cord. Now, part of that was where the power cord was, the fact it moved around, etc. But as you can see there, that wasn't a good morning. Okay, I came down in the morning and was greeted by that, and also have on my mobile device, on my cell phone, I have updates from Robbie. The other one on the right hand side is my wife is a knitter. And in this instance, Robbie attempted to unknit something, and eventually was sort of, not choked to death, but consumed enough wool that he couldn't do any more. So that was a kind of a learning experience for us, certainly my wife and for Robbie there. Within a couple of weeks, Robbie had mapped out the house layout, dealt with things, had stopped scaring the cats and stuff like that, and is now very efficient. Very few mornings I come down anymore and have problems like this. Occasionally, every now and then, particularly if the cats have brought something nasty in, there is a problem. But most of the time, Robbie has learnt and is coping with life very well, and we love him for it. In fact, the next generation is even cleverer, and I'm currently possibly saving up for that one. So again, AI is evolving. That's what I'm talking about here. AI is evolving. So if we think about project management right now, let's focus just on project management. Then the way to look at this, the way I've been looking at this is, think about the 4 categories, 4 stages, 4 phases of AI in the world of project management. The low end is integration and automation. For example, project planning enabled auto scheduling by means of programmed tasks and logic, etc., automatically tracking progress. This is, if you like, the lowest level, perhaps, of AI in our world. The second one is the kind of chatbot assistance. This is where you kind of see project assistants offering the project manager support and tracking things and reminding them and perhaps scheduling meetings, things like that. I think the kind of really clever stuff gets into the machine learning based project management, what some people refer to as the third phase of project management, introducing this kind of idea of predictive analytics, providing the kind of real considered and proactive and forward-looking advice to project managers. And this is really, I think, where the bulk of that, the 80% that's going to disappear, the bulk of it will be in that area. And to be honest with you, I don't mind that personally. I don't mind it on the grounds that there's a lot of parts of project management that I found a little bit tedious. I did it because it was part of the job, but actually I'd be happy to get rid of it. A lot of the kind of project reporting, a lot of the kind of organization of meetings, a lot of the kind of analyzing the kind of data that I'm seeing, that forward-looking consideration, that projection of where the project's going or likely to go, the impact on my project, of all the other projects that are going on, stuff like that was very time-consuming. So I'd be happy. And obviously the fourth stage is autonomous project management. And this doesn't exist, all right? Let's be clear. We do not have autonomous project management at this point in time. I think we can have a good conversation about whether we feel that's actually ever going to happen or not. Personally, I think it's possible for small scale, low risk, low complex type change, possibly. But most of the development, I think, is going to be in the area of the integration, automation, chatbots, and machine learning. And that's what we're going to see, I think, by that 2030 date that Gartner was talking about. So I'd love to know now, back to you guys out there, the ones that you are on Menti, and you can still join if you want. You can still connect to us on Menti using that code. Just go to menti.com, put the code in, and away you go. But who is using any form of AI in project management today? And that, it's just an interesting one, really. It's quite possible that you may not know. Absolutely, you could be using something without realizing it. I think today there's AI out there, etc. And maybe when you've tried to communicate with Amazon, for example, we've had a problem, etc. You may not realize that you were actually engaging in any form of AI when you were having the chatbot support that was going on, at least in the early stages of your conversations. So, okay. So, it doesn't surprise me that the majority are saying no. Quite a few of you are actually saying yes. That's fascinating. And we're going to explore what it is that you are using there. And a few of you obviously don't know. And that's absolutely fine. So for those of you who said yes, the subset, where would you say that you are using AI technology right now? Are you using it? Is it integration automation? Is it chatbots? Is it machine learning? Please don't put autonomous PM. It doesn't exist right now. So I've just put it on there for completeness. Integration automation, that's the first one coming in. Yeah. Second one, third one. There's a joker out there, but there's always someone puts autonomous project manager. Either there's some secret base somewhere or unit somewhere that's far more advanced. But yes, that makes sense to me. Vast majority integration automation, one in chatbot, couple in machine learning. Okay, cool. That makes sense. Another one in chatbot. Thank you for that. Oh, a couple more coming in. I'm going to give it a few more seconds. Oh, there's 2 autonomous project managers out there. I look forward to learning more about that. Okay, look, let's explore this. Artificial intelligence is no match for natural stupidity. I came across this mug recently, and it just made me laugh. But the point about this is, I think, and I'm going to end up at this, that actually it's a partnership. That's where I'm going to with this. But let me just talk about this one, for example, to start with. The Hive Mind. So when you're on a project and you're leading a project team, and some of these teams we know can get very, very large. They can get very distributed. Typically, on the last projects I personally ran, they were never single location. They were never single country. They were around the world. That's just the nature of where we're going with these things. But I always wanted to try and engage my project team as much as possible. And I love this. This is an example of the Hive Mind. So Oxford University in the UK, they partnered up with an AI technology company, and they ran an experiment. And the experiment was they got a whole bunch of sports fans to predict the outcomes of a whole series of matches over a number of weeks. So I think it was over 10 weekends, and it was in the English Premier League football, soccer, if you're from America, but it's football. That's the proper term for it. And the Premier League is strongly arguably, I think, is probably the most famous and most influential and most exciting league in football around the world. Some of the world's greatest players play in the Premier League. Anyway, what they did is they took people who followed football, understood it, followed it regularly, dedicated fans. They got them to then predict the results of a series of Premier League matches over a period of a number of weeks. I think it was 10 weeks out. And at the end of that period of time, they looked at the accuracy of those predictions. And the average accuracy, if you like, was 53%. So individually, based on their knowledge, based on their regular attention to that sport, based on knowing the teams, knowing the players, knowing where they were in the leagues at any given time, knowing the matches that were coming up, they achieved a 53% accuracy, which, if you think about it, it's not much better than just flipping a coin. It's just over 50%. Well, they repeated the exercise, and what they did this time using the AI platform was they connected all of these people together, and they created a common prediction, a collective prediction. So next 10 matches, next 10 weekends, same teams, same people, but connected together. And so instead of having individual predictions, they had one single collective prediction, and the accuracy rose to 74%. So 53% to 74%, huge jump in accuracy by connecting people together, by creating a hive mind, by creating this opportunity to collaborate. And it goes back to what I said earlier on. It's about having better decisions, faster decisions, more accurate decisions, more informed decisions, quicker. And so on that basis, excuse me, this is a great example of the power of artificial intelligence and connecting to individuals, connecting to people. So I want to come back now to communication efficiency, because at the heart of project management, I would say it is communication efficiency. At the heart of project management, that's what we do as project managers. It depends on what book you read, or what piece of research you read, or what method you follow, or anything like that, what community you're part of. Project managers are doing 70, 80, 90% of their time is spent in some form of communication. That communication is, we know, it's a lot of meetings. It's a lot of one-to-one meetings, collective group meetings, follow-up meetings, steering meetings, progress meetings, stand-up meetings, sit-down meetings, all of that. A huge amount of time. And I have always said to people when they say, well, where can I start being productively lazy? Where can I start being a lazy project manager? And I always say, starting communication. That doesn't mean you stop talking to people tomorrow. But communication is about providing the right information to the right person in the right way at the right time. And that takes a lot of effort. And actually, what you're aiming for is 100% accuracy when it comes to communication. Every miscommunication on the project is costly. That means a decision goes wrong, is inaccurate, an action doesn't take place, or rework has to take place. People get upset, they get emotional, they get stressed. It's not a good thing. So project managers are always striving to get that 100%. So it's a brilliant place to start. And I said, meetings. So I'd love to know, do you struggle with meetings? Do you struggle with notes? Do you struggle with producing minutes? Is this a bane of your life? Do you love it? Some people love it. I know some people love it. But me personally, I didn't. I understood that I needed to be involved in this. I understood that I needed to a degree, I needed to own it. Because this is where the heart of communications was. When I talked earlier on about that group of project managers I have and the two different behaviors, a 40-hour week versus a 60, 70-hour week, this is the heart of what was going on, which is one of the heart anyway, that they were locked into so many meetings. Major mistake I made when I was a young project manager was I just didn't trust my team. I didn't trust anybody. I had to be in every meeting, every decision point, and it was a major problem. So yeah, thanks again for sharing that. So a couple of you are saying not really, 3 of you are saying a little, 3 of you are saying a lot, and some. I just think it's a problem, and so I just want to share something at this point with you, because meetings, I think it's a great place to start to be productively lazy. So yeah, I was really impressed when we came across the the Sembly AI group, and I'm really happy to be working with them right now because it does sit in the area of a major opportunity, I feel. So when I talk about project management, it's always important to go back to the fact that is this quote here. When we talked about the Gartner quote beforehand, we talked about the PwC quote earlier on. In the midst of this evolution, it's important to remember that there's something AI cannot do. It cannot be human. But you know what? It can be an amazing support act to human project management, I believe. And anywhere where you can gain some time away from doing something that is non-people focused, you can spend more time on people focused things, I believe. So just to summarize, and we're going to go on to a Q&A shortly after this, but I mean, key learning points here. I think AI is here to stay. I know AI is here to stay, and it's going to change the project management role significantly. And my point about talking about it, and I don't claim to be a deep space AI specialist or anything like that, but I do see what's coming towards my profession, and I do think that we all need to embrace the potential here. So it will aid project managers in many ways. We've seen that, the process automation, chatbots, machine learning, and eventually into autonomous project management. But at the heart of it, projects are, and they always have been, about people. The greatest need for any project manager is or its great skill, if you like, is to have the ability to lead a group of people during this temporary endeavor to deliver a successful outcome that's going to bring benefit to their organization, benefit to their business, benefit to the world, if you like. So AI can't be human. So my message is, but you can be an amazing human project manager in the AI empowered world, I believe. And the way I've started just talking about this is this concept of joining the digital dance. And Kurt, I'm gonna wake you up out there and get your thoughts on this in just a minute. So if you'd like to join us as well, Kurt is from Sembly AI, and he's been kind of coordinating my work and this whole webinar. But if you think about a digital dance, it goes along lines like this. If any of you follow the kind of the whole sort of Strictly Come Dancing or Dancing with the Stars, etc. There's a partnership that is created between the professional dancer and the amateur celebrity, and it's all quite awkward to start with, but eventually over a period of time, we see some pretty amazing. If you follow it and you enjoy it, you see some pretty amazing dances that happen with when that kind of trust and that becoming one occurs, and it typically occurs after a few weeks, and it gets better and better and better. And I think for what I'm saying in the world of project management is that all project managers, believe, anybody in the world that's doing this, that's focused on this profession and beyond, you need to think about joining that digital dance. Is understand AI, understand what's out there, and begin to start learning to dance profitably and successfully with AI out there. And I've shown you just one example today around the whole kind of communication reporting and some meeting summary. So Kurt, there are a couple of thoughts you'd like to share with us at this point?
Yeah, I think you hit on a lot of great points, Peter. I think one of the things that brought me to Sembly was my natural tendency to have preconceived notions, right? And if you go back in history, there was, a preconceived notion that no one would have a personal computer, right? No one would need that, or that a phone is for calling people. Mm-hmm. And coming into Sembly and learning more about artificial intelligence and machine learning, I'm starting to question some of my own preconceived notions that Kurt's the best person to take the notes, and Kurt's the best person to follow up. And these meetings couldn't be run effectively without Kurt being involved. And I think when we start to look at what we do and how we do things, we might want to open ourselves up to what's possible. And when I first started talking to Gil, our co-founder at Sembly, it was more of a discussion, a what if type of discussion. What if you could attach an agent or a virtual self or a bot to your meetings, and that bot could not just take a transcript of the meeting and attribute it to the speakers, do the diarization, but it could actually listen to the conversation and capture the key topics. It could listen to what people are saying and capture the risks, actions, issues, decisions. It could listen to where, Peter, you might say, set an action item for Kurt to follow up on XYZ by next week. And when you get the summary, there's an action item there that has my name attached to it, and it actually figures out the date that it's due. And there's other types of platforms on the market. You can record your Teams meeting, you can get a transcript, you can listen back at 2.5 times, all of that. But I think what most people are looking for is the summary. They're looking for what was discussed, what was decided, who's responsible, and when does it need to get done. And it eliminates the need for people to follow up. It creates a shared accountability. We all see the notes. We all have access to the notes. I committed to doing something, and I'm going to do that, and people are going to hold me accountable, and I don't really need the project manager or the program manager to professionally stalk me on a daily basis to get me to do those things.
We don't stalk people, Kurt.
I've been in sales for a long time, and I always describe myself as a professional stalker. You try to do it in a nice way, and if there are ways that we can have a shared accountability, I think that's really cool. And Sembly has been the pioneer in this space. We're the only company out there that does the automatic summary. Others speak to it, but it's mostly keywords. And we have a new capability coming out on July 4th, which is even an enhanced summary that we're extremely excited about. So I think using the platform and figuring out whether it's a value is the best way to determine whether this is a way that would make your life easier.
I thank you. And I think definitely, I reflect back when I first joined project management. I remember my boss at the time said, you need to own the minutes. Whatever happens, you own the minutes, because then you own the project. And it's like, yeah, but that's a lot of hard work. And actually, my view has changed completely now, because actually, when you have a meeting about a project, it should be a very open, honest discussion. And the burden of straight after a difficult steerco or something like that, you've then got to sit down and craft these wonderful minutes, and then got to share them out there. Just getting rid of that, I would be happy to do. I said, this is one of the reasons I think AI in general is such a good thing. So thanks for that. I know we're going to move on to Q&A at this point. I'd like to just wrap up with, I know you kind of told me earlier on how you felt about AI. You were very excited. And you were a little bit cautious, but you're most excited. I'm really hoping I haven't put people off. So one final vote, if I may, from you guys. What is it? What does you feel? Okay, looks like that's about the same. Okay, keep going. Cautious as like up there. You all coming in? Okay, excited, cautious. Yeah. Okay. I don't feel I put people off yet. That's kind of good. I'm conscious of time, so I'm gonna move on. So thank you everybody who's actually contributed to that. Look, at the end of a successful project, you've never heard the sponsor or the project manager thanking the project tools or the methodology or the reporting process or the escalation path. They thank the people. And you know what? They will never ever thank the AI, but I think they will be thankful for the AI. That's what I will say at this point. If anyone wants to grab a copy of the book, there's a code there. But I think at this point, we're going to go to questions. So have we had any questions come in? We've got about 10 minutes to do that.
Yeah, we did get a question in that relates to if an action to scheduling a meeting exists, and can Sembly do that automatic scheduling of the meeting? Okay,
that's definitely a question for you then.
Yeah, it's we're not there in that magical world of being able to do that, but what we're trying to do with the Sembly platform, and I'll go back onto camera so I don't appear too mysterious.
Okay.
What we're trying to do with the platform is have a meeting, have a summary of that meeting, and allow the meeting to continue. Meaning individuals are going to follow up with other people. They're going to take care of those issues, and maybe avoid having a meeting to talk about the previous meeting that references a previous meeting to stop that continuum of meetings. Let's do one, let's talk about it, let's identify the action items, the risks, who's accountable, and then let's move forward in solving those. So for a lot of our clients, they're capturing stats around less people in meetings or more efficient meetings, because there's opportunity costs with groups that we call meeting tourists. And coming from a Big Four consulting firm, I was used to Teams meetings where we had 25 people across the top, and I'm thinking, why are you on this call? Or is it a fear of missing out? Are you taking notes? Do you have no other way of capturing this information? Well, what could you be doing if you weren't on this meeting? If you're not going to talk and you just want to consume the output, then don't be on the meeting. Do something else, and we'll provide that input to you, and you'll get it right away and be able to take the necessary action items.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things. Is again, it's about being part of the meeting. I think when you talked about it, we don't have the benefit these days of having an official scribe in the room on the call to actually take notes so that everybody that's part of the project can then be focusing. No, it tends to be the project managers trying to take notes as they go through, or and that's part of the problem. Because if you're busy taking notes, are you paying attention? If you're not paying attention, that is a problem, I think, in general terms.
Yeah, I think it's empowering for a PM to not be viewed as a note taker, to be driving the discussion. If your head's down in your notes, you're missing things, but you're also not leading and driving. So I think it's very empowering to have Sembly be the platform that takes the meeting summaries, and you can always modify those summaries as needed. But with the 80-20 rule, maybe it gets you 80% of the way there, or maybe 90 or 95% of the way there. And then you can avoid some of those opportunity costs on your end in formulating the notes, distributing the notes, following up on the notes. It creates, again, that shared accountability.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
I see another question about, curious about the impact of massive data and AI support in decisions when it's no longer possible for the PM to understand the full span of the data or how the system deals with it. Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think what we've seen over the last several years is the rise of a transformation, which are massive multi-year, multi-million-dollar spends to achieve significant business outcomes, drive a couple billion of cost out of the business, improve profitability, stand up SAP, but not just features and functions, to actually achieve something out of it. Business outcome focus. And when you're dealing with these massive transformations, usually the way that you might architect and orchestrate that is you have areas that you focus on, or portfolios, and then objectives that support those areas, programs that achieve those objectives, and projects that support those programs. A lot of times you're concerned about the business outcome. You're fine if you accidentally achieve your desired business outcomes, but if you don't have a structured way of doing it and you start to fail, there's going to be a lot of questions on why are you off track. And people are always at the center, lots of discussions, lots of meetings, lots of unstructured data. And Sembly offers a way to harness that and to put that into place that could then be used to either draw insights or make improved decisions. Okay. And that's how we see our clients using it, whether they're managing a project or managing this 5-year multinational transformation. Yeah,
there's a lot. I think the other thing is, I'm going to go back to it, it is that kind of objectivity as well, because my world is, we're a software company and we have client-facing projects. So instantly there's two parties involved. There's us, there's a supplier, there's the client as well. I think anything that says, we're producing a record of what's going on that is totally independent, objective, it is just recording what went on, as opposed to, you're creating it, or I'm creating it, or having that done in parallel. I've seen it in parallel, and we're two project managers are competing with each other to produce reports, notes, project updates, etc. And again, I think anything that says, well, no, this is the outcome, this is the honest outcome, this is what's heard, I think it'd be again a very, very powerful thing.
It can appear almost like science fiction. It was hard for me to believe that an agent can listen to a conversation and take the notes. Right, there was a lot of questions in my mind, but having been on board with Sembly I've seen it firsthand, and I've seen the new iteration of the summary view that's coming out next week, and it has caused me to question a lot of what I thought about the capabilities of AI. And to your point, Peter, people capture what they feel is important, and AI is non-partial. It listens and it captures and it shares that information. So there's an added advantage to that as well.
Cool.
There was also a question about a link to your books.
Okay, yeah.
And how people could actually purchase those.
Well, I mean, the book, okay, great, thank you. You can go to my website, thelazyprojectmanager.com. That's a great home which will showcase all the books, but the books can all be purchased through Amazon and other bookstores, the major bookstores, etc. So that's the way to go. If you go to the website, if you want to learn more about a Lazy Project Manager, you can go to the website and you can actually download a sample, couple of chapters of the book if you want to read a little bit more before committing. So Lazy Project Manager, thelazyprojectmanager.com, best place to go.
And that's all the questions that are coming up on my end.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we're gonna let the audience into a little secret. So we have been running Sembly AI agent during this actual webinar, and what we're going to do is we're going to share the results with people after the webinar, aren't we?
We are, yeah, and we're more than happy to kind of talk to folks about the different ways that Sembly works. We have a personal license. Maybe you're an individual, or if you have a team of up to 40 and you want one agent that kind of cuts across all 40, or maybe an enterprise with multiple teams. So we're more than happy to share the results of this discussion, and you can see the summary and the action items and the transcript, and even get exposure to the user interface, because I think that's important as well in how you would use it on a day-to-day basis. So please feel free to reach out to us. We're easily accessible through sembly.ai, or reach out to me. My email's kurt@sembly.ai. It doesn't get any easier than that, or through LinkedIn. But for anybody that wants to learn a little bit more and gain a little bit more knowledge about how we're a little bit different in a space that's somewhat crowded, conversational AI, meeting optimization, there's lots of different solutions out there. We're a little unique, and we love to showcase our capabilities.
Perfect. So, I've enjoyed the session. I'm very passionate about AI in my project management world, and Sembly is a great example of how it can help the world of project managers and the work that we do. So, thank you again for kind of sponsoring this event. But as I said, learn. Just get engaged in this conversation about AI and the impact it's going to have on project management and your world. And you can talk to me. You can talk to Kurt, Sembly AI. Yeah, I think that's it.
Very good. Thanks, everybody.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Bye, everybody.